everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using Stitched Florals and the Isabella card making stamp set. I'm also going to teach the Ombre stamping technique. So I'm going to use this embossing folder. It's called Spring Blossoms from the core catalog. And this is the stamp set from Isabella card making. And the set has a lot more than what's featured on the front. It's got all of these sentiments and they're great for cards. So I'm going to use some of the sentiments and then I'm going to use the floral design along with the U cutout, okay? And I'm going to use that flower from Stitched Florals from the core catalog. Okay, so let's get started. I'll be using White Daisy and Bluebell cardstock. So Bluebell is going to retire at the end of August. So if you like that color, I would suggest making that purchase pretty quickly because it says supplies last. So I went ahead and cut out that White Daisy at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to cut Bluebell at a little bit larger because I'm going to use the stitched rectangle die to cut a frame. So I'm cutting that at 4 1/2 by about 6. So the Isabella card making set has a little banner die and it's stitched. It's super cute. So I'm cutting out some more Bluebell. I'm going to use the light side of Bluebell and I'm going to cut my sentiment that says think out of this cardstock using that little banner. So I'm stamping the word think in sapphire cardstock. And now I'm going to bring in some more White Daisy. And this is the ombre technique that I use. There's a couple of ways to do it, but I like to use 3 colors. So I'm using Sapphire, Bluebell, and Carolina. I was debating between Carolina and another color, but I needed a lighter color. So I just use sponge daubers and I just load up color onto the dauber and then pounce it onto my image. And so I start with the dark and start at the base, and then I go to the next lighter color and kind of overlap, and then the lightest. So you could also start with covering your entire stamp with the lightest and then use the sponge daubers to add the next 2 colors. So after either way works. So after I'm done loading color onto my image, I huff on it, just go, and the moisture from your breath will re-moisten the ink so that it will stamp onto your cardstock. So I did this again so that I have enough of this design to be able to cut the word U out using that thin cut. Okay, so now I've got the floral image loaded into my MISTI. I like to use the larger images with my MISTI. And I'm just going to load this up with black ink because I'm going to color this image in with the tri-blend markers. So I've got the little bow and the floral image. I'm just going to stamp those in black ink on White Daisy cardstock. I'll get my stamp cleaned up with my stamp chamois, and then we'll get that out of the way. Okay, so I'm also going to use a piece of White Daisy cardstock to put behind my U sentiment so it pops a little bit more. So I'm going to cut this at about 1 1/2 and it's going to go across my card, so by 4 1/4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead. I've got everything colored in with my tri-blend markers and now I'll start cutting. So I've got my Big Shot and I'm going to use the coordinating thin cuts to cut out these images. So the flowers and the little bow. Got those cut out. And then I'm going to cut out my U. And it seemed like it wasn't quite tall enough, but it really is. It's exactly the amount of room that you need to cut this sentiment out and have the pattern on all of the letters. So I ran that through, and I have all of my images in there in that ombre colored look. Okay, so now I'm going to run my sentiment through with this little banner. And so now I have think. And then I'm going to run the bluebell through. This is the dark side of bluebell with my stitched rectangle to get a frame to put around the edges of the card. And then the last step, I'm going to change the tabs on my Big Shot, and I'm going to run this white daisy piece through my embossing folder. This is the Spring Blossoms embossing folder from the core catalog. So the easiest way to use this is to just make sure the words close to my heart are facing up and you can read them, and then you'll know that you're embossing the correct way. You can deboss, but if you want to emboss the way the folder was meant to be used, just make sure the words are facing up. Okay, so then I have that floral image for my background. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of figure out where things are going to go on my card. So I have my card base. It's an A2 side fold at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and put my embossed white daisy piece down. And I'm just using tape runner to attach that. Make sure you don't press too hard because you don't want your little embossing marks to change. Okay, so we'll get that down, and then I'm going to put this piece of white daisy, and it's going to go behind the word you. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of lay things out and see how I want them to go on my card front. And then we'll proceed with assembly of the card. Okay. So I think I like that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this piece of white daisy cardstock with silver embellishing thread. So I'm going to attach it with glue dots. But I'm going to wrap it around this piece of cardstock 3 times so I know what length I'm going to need, and cut that off. And then before wrapping it, I like to run it along my bone folder, and it kind of takes all of the little bend fold marks from packaging out of the thread and straightens it out. And then I'm just going to attach it with glue dots. Okay, so I have that ready to go. And then I'll attach the piece of white daisy cardstock to my card front with some tape runner. Get that down. And then I have something to anchor all of my elements on my card front too. All right, so I'm going to lay everything out again. And my letters and all of my elements are going to be attached to my card front using thin foam tape. So I have those ready to go. And my floral image is going to be attached using a combination of tape runner and some of the aqua liquid glue for the skinny stems of the floral image. And then the last step is to add my frame, and I'm going to attach that with some Tombow Aqua. And the beauty of the liquid glue is this is a little fiddly, so you have time to kind of maneuver and shift your frame around to make sure that it's in the place that you want it to be before the glue sets up. So you can kind of move things around and fiddle with it. Okay. And then I'll add the rest of my elements to my card front. So put your frame down first to make sure that you have room for everything else. Okay, and then the last step is to add some of these bluebell glitter gems. And again, anything bluebell colored is available until the end of August while supplies last. So if you like that color, you should probably make that purchase pretty quickly. I'll make a list of everything used for this project in the description below. And you can go to the URL in the upper right corner of your screen and do some shopping. I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks for watching.